Well, hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever and whenever you are watching or listening to this podcast. So I figured I would come on here and do a state of the business episode. Like in America, we have the State of the Union that the president gives every year. I'm going to do the state of the business. It's long overdue. I started the business over 4 years ago, and I actually created the LLC in December, I think it was 19th, but I know it was December of 2019. So over 4 years. It has been well over 2.5, probably getting close to 3 years now that I've actually had a product to sell. I remember it was the spring of 2021. I actually sold a plant-based protein powder called Howard's Blend plant-based protein powder. I just happen to have the original 1 pound bag size here, spring of 2021. This actually expired in April of 2023. So getting close to a year ago, it expired. Just keeping it just for sentimental value. And then in December of 2022, I switched over and began to sell SMB pre-workout. This is now our only product that we sell. It's the flagship product, flagship and only product that I sell. Yeah, so over 2.5 years, but really more 2.75 years that I've been selling a product. And I wanted to give you all just kind of a rundown of like what's going on. Primarily because it's the most important for a business is making money, because you don't make money, you don't stay in business. Like, how much money have I made in 2.75 years of having a product to sell? So before this week, and I'm going to explain that in a minute, before this last week, I should say, with regards to the pre-workout, since that's really been my big push because I formulated the product myself. So it's really my pre-workout for lack of a better term. The plant-based protein powder, I talked about it before. It's a white label. So it was one that the manufacturer already had like on stock, and then you could provide them with your logo, etc., and then they will put your label on it. So it wasn't really my formula, even though I did have a protein powder formula. It's not the one that I went with, which I'm going to talk about in a future episode, because it was a lot, and I say that on purpose, those 4 lots, extra lot more expensive to do what I wanted to do with the protein powder. But before this last week, so in essence, over a year of having the pre-workout available on the market, I sold 11 units. So the MOQ, which for those out there that don't know, it stands for minimum order quantity. So it's the minimum number of, in this case, bottles that I have to order in order for the manufacturer even to do business with me, was 500. Now, other manufacturers I've talked to, it was over 10,000. And then other ones was 3,000. And then the manufacturer I work with now, it's 500. So 11 bottles sold in a year out of 500. So, how do I put this? The feeling was disheartening in a sense, because I really put a lot of effort in. When I say effort, that's time, work, and money, which I'll talk about here in a second, into getting this product and promoting it in order to sell it to people. Not that I have any interest in quitting. Now, I do ask myself almost on a daily basis, Howard, why the heck are you doing this? But I've talked about this before on social media, that when I have those feelings, I remember why I started. And why I started because I really enjoy supplements, and I feel that the supplements I design are really going to help people as a tool in order to help them become a better version of themselves. In this instance, with SMB Nutrition, spirit, mind, body. So yeah, I'm not blaming anybody for it. I blame myself. I have to take full responsibility. It's my company. So it's like, all right, Howard, we only sold 11 bottles. What's going on here? Maybe about a month or so ago, I took about at least 2 months, not off from social media and podcasting, etc., but I really stepped back. I really had a come to Jesus moment. I guess that's the term, where it was like, Howard, you're halfway there. When I say halfway there, you have 2 years essentially in order to sell the product, and then it expires. I can't legally sell it anymore, so I'm essentially out the money. And you're a year into this, like, we really need to reevaluate like what we're doing here. And one of the answers was this episode, because I've said it, like not long after I got the plant-based protein powder, that I was going to document what I'm doing with the company, and I really wanted to be open about it. And that was one of the tenets of the company, was transparency. And I was like, dude, you haven't really been doing that. I've been putting out content, I've been networking, but I really haven't been putting out content so much about like what I'm doing with the company. So hence this episode. So yeah, 11 bottles. I mean, I'll put it in perspective. I have given away more bottles than I have sold. And when I say given it away, I've given it away strategically to people that I've networked with, to friends that are helping to promote the product as well. I wanted to have them like, hey, use this in order to put on social media posts, etc. And I actually paid for a service, which I will talk about in another episode, to actually help me find influencers that would be willing to promote the product in exchange for the product itself. Kind of putting this out there because with the idea that, yeah, I've sold 11 bottles, which is nowhere near what I was planning on doing. But I'm not just like, okay, I'm going to continue doing the same thing. I said, okay, Howard, now it's time to change. We looked back. We said, nope, we're not where we want to be. Let's switch gears here. As I mentioned before, in terms of a goal, the destination remains the same, but the path to get there can change, like you do with Google when they give you a detour. That happens in life as well. So, all right. I've mentioned this before I forget it, that I said up until this last week, because I actually, and I'll be doing another video about this. I'm learning the ins and outs of how to use TikTok Shop, and I've messed that up in more ways than one. But yeah, I've actually started to get sales through TikTok Shop. I will say that the product, SMB pre-workout, is $10 on the TikTok Shop, as well as on the website, which I'll put a link in the description, and on Instagram. All right, so in terms of dollar amounts, so I don't have the exact dollar amounts because the first year, that 2020, when I was in business, I spent some money, but it wasn't really significant, and I didn't even put it on a Schedule C because I was like, okay, I'm not really doing anything yet. But all expenses put together, I just know kind of ballpark in my head, it's around $30,000. That includes setting up the LLC, setting up the DBA. That includes doing trademark search, which, oh boy, that really could be another episode. I really was looking to get a trademark too early. That's having a website. That's hiring the consultant, which I've talked about in other interviews before, where I had a consultant to help me find manufacturers. That's actually ordering the plant-based protein powder, ordering samples of SMB pre-workout, actually getting the product and then having to pay for shipping because they have to use freight in order to ship it to me. They put it on the big 18-wheeler, and thankfully I live next to a big street where the 18-wheeler could pull in and they can get it off it real easily and then get into the building here, the apartment. And another thing, just to add more insurance and more, there's another word I want to use, but I can't think of it right now. But I guess insurance or security or peace of mind, I guess what I'm really looking for. Peace of mind to you all is I had SMB Howard's Blend plant-based protein powder I had it third-party tested. I had it third-party tested for heavy metals. I paid that out of my pocket. SMB pre-workout. I actually downloaded it here. I had it printed out, but I downloaded it to my phone. Right there. That's a certificate of analysis. That was almost how much was it? It was about $1,600. I paid that out of my pocket because one is I wanted to verify. I trust the manufacturer, but I'm being honest. I wanted to verify that what I asked and what I paid to be put in the product was actually in the product. And I wanted that extra level of peace of mind that I had a third party review it. I paid a lab to do it. Another reason why is because it's for you all. I wanted to make sure that what I put on the supplement facts panel, the SFP, right there, that the amounts are what's actually in the product. But yeah, so that's just an examples of like what goes into the cost of the supplement company. And I don't have any backers on this. It was me. It was the money that I've saved up over time, and I spent it because I believed in myself and I believe in what I have to offer you all. And so in terms of revenue for the past 2.5 years, selling, again, before this week, only 11 bottles of pre-workout, and I've sold more of the plant-based protein powder. I had wonderful assistance. My first customer, Hussein Abdullah, H.A. Holmes, I'm going to tag him in this. He's been, as well as everybody, he's been invaluable in terms of helping me out. I remember he was my first customer, and he's been just amazing in terms of helping to promote it. In his podcast, the Busy MoneyCast, which I'll tag that too because that's a great freaking podcast. But in terms of revenue, since I've had a product to sell, I have made under $1,000 in revenue. You heard that right. About $1,000, well, not even $1,000. I think it's a little bit under $1,000. And I remember this same person, Hussein Abdullah, when we spoke on a previous episode of his podcast, he said, you got to be willing to spend money in order to make money. And he's absolutely right. So do I have any regrets over spending that money? No, I don't at all. Because even though I've spent all that money over the past 4 years and I've only made back, 2% or whatever, under $1,000 of it back, I have learned so many lessons, which I'll be talking about in subsequent episodes. And I look back and say, yeah, if I could have started over again, and I was asked about this on another podcast, would I have done anything differently? Sure. Yeah, there are things I would have done differently. Yeah, with the lessons that I've learned, that kind of leads into the conclusion of this. And so in subsequent episodes, as I've talked about, we're going to go into how I got started. When I say how I got started, I've talked so many times about how I thought of the idea for the supplement company, but we're going to go into like how I found a manufacturer, how I found the manufacturer for the plant-based protein powder, the manufacturer for the pre-workout. I know I've talked about the consultant, but we'll go into more detail about that, how I did the research for it. What am I doing in terms of research? Because I do have ideas and plans for a version 2 of the pre-workout, whenever that may be. What are my plans for the future? We talked about my brainstorming. What did I think of, and what changes with what I think of during that 2-month period, and what plans am I implementing in order to try to improve the sales? I just want to move the product. I would rather take a huge loss and at least get the bottles in people's hands for them to try, with the hope that, like, myself and the people that I tested it with, that once they try it, they're going to be like, man, this is really good. I really, really like it. It really worked. It was effective. And I want to order it again. And then ordering again is what goes into what I'm going to be talking about in subsequent episodes. So that's it, folks. What could I call it? State of spirit, mind, body. State of SMB Nutrition. So that's it. If you have any questions, comments, cheers, jeers, let me know. I'll put all my contact information in the description. If you follow me, you know that I love doing like video replies to questions and certain comments and such. But I love doing video replies, and because I love answering you all questions. So that's it. Take care. I'm out.